Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRacing look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello and welcome into tonight's round of the Radical Americas Championship. My name is Charles Bochelle, along with our producer Josh Wilkie. In here by myself, Ron Mons is apparently under the weather and will not be joining us. We are here tonight at Circuit de Spa Francorchamps in Belgium for tonight's round. If you were expecting Sonoma, this has been a change to the schedule. With the new configuration that iRacing's put out. So we're going to get a chance to really delve into the action here and see the differences in the track and let these guys show us how the Radicals race around here. So we'll have our normal feature format with a 15-minute sprint race followed by a 45-minute feature. And we do have a little special edition tonight. We do have in-car commentary from our good friend JR Gregory. JR, I know that you've already kind of been on the track. So how do you like the changes to the track?
You know, it's interesting. It's kind of a double-edged sword. There's stuff I like about it and stuff that I like less about it. And I guess one of the things I like less about it is I'm showing my age here, but I remember driving on this track in GT Legends and R Factor 1 and stuff back in the day. So I've literally done a bajillion laps around here where it's just kind of muscle memory with one eye closed. And there have been some substantive changes in the track. It's obviously there are improved graphics of various kinds, but on top of just the eye candy, there are some substantive changes. Track limits have changed in a couple of spots, and the line has actually changed in a couple spots. So it's kind of a case of having to teach an old dog new tricks in terms of learning new lines after having driven Spa for so many years. But I'll tell you the one positive. There's one since you asked, and we're filling time here.
Yeah, for sure.
There's one after Bruxelles, that hairpin. There's a short downhill run, and then there's a left-hander after that. And I got to tell you, I've always struggled to find the turn-in point on that corner, and even with my thousands of laps out here, that's always been kind of a spot for me that needed an improvement. They added a sausage curb there on the inside, so you actually now have a nice target that you can see from way far away. So it has taken all the mystery out of what had been a pretty difficult corner. So that is the part about the rescan that I enjoy the most, because that was really a bad weak spot for me, and it kind of has gone away now, which I'm pretty happy about.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're watching you on the track coming through there. That is Jackie X Corner, I guess formerly known as No Name or Speaker's Corner. It's got about 40 names. And so now we'll call it Jackie X as you go down through Puhan. The long double left-hander, very wide open. Are you going flat through there, just out of curiosity? Are you having to brake a little bit?
Yeah, you got to drag the brakes just a little bit to get the front end to bite, and then once you're confident that the front tires have hooked up, you're back on full throttle in fifth.
Yeah, very cool, very good. Whereas we're watching going through Paul Frere here toward the back stretch, and that run down through Blanchimont into the bus stop chicane. We will say practice is almost over here. We're getting ready to start our qualifying session. It'll be a 10-minute qualifying session. I think it's 4 laps, I believe is correct. Yep, so you get a 4-lap maximum, fastest lap, and get your position.
Uh-oh.
We see them making it. A little lock up there going into the bus stop. So I think we'll see a few of those, little brake locks in a few of the corners as we now look at Adrian Fernandez finishing up, and practice is now over. So we'll let JR, we'll let you go and concentrate on quali, and we'll be back with you shortly.
Excellent. We'll see you after quali. Thanks, guys.
Right, thank you. We'll let JR get focused in here, try and get his laps, because as we talked about before the race, it's hard to get your full 4 laps in here, so you got to be on it pretty quick. And this is looks like a solo qualifying, so we are here on board with Adrian Fernandez. We're going to switch over now to Diego Zuccarelli, who I believe had the fastest lap in practice. We were talking and did not check the final results, but he was very, very quick in his radical. Had a nice little gap, I believe, over Franco Sanchez. And as we're watching quali start up here, I guess we can go through our championship points, Josh, if you want to bring that up for us. As we'll get our championship standings, and you can see the pro category, Lucas Vieira with 252 points has a nice 17-point cushion over Ryan Odo. Franco Sanchez in third with 213. John Benelid, Eric Harmon rounding out your top 5. Then we have Rylan Richard, Diego Zuccarelli, David Unger, Bruno Abrantes, and Mark Harris rounds out your top 10. And we will say that we keep talking about championship points, and it's nice to be at the top of that board because it's bragging rights. But the top 9 drivers in the pro category, top 8 drivers in the AM category will go to the Radical World Finals. So if you're in the top 9, you're doing great. So Mark Harris, Tim Salvatore have a little work to do. So we'll see if they manage to make it to some of the races and can maybe jump in there. And so we'll switch over to the AMs. Andy Vogel, 224 points, big gap over Adrian Fernandez in second at 172. Still very tight between Fernandez and Krasik, who has 169, sitting in third. Joel Jacklin, 157, and Cedric Oyon in fifth. So very tight between third and fifth, only 15 points separating those 3 drivers. Hunter Reed, Luis Perez, Tyler Vickery, J.R. Gregory, and Mayor Dionarine round out your top 10. As we said, the top 8 will make it into the World Finals. So for guys like JR, look at he's trying to get him to do double duty when he's trying to fight to get into the top 8. So we'll continue to watch Zuccarelli, as most of these cars are still starting now their first flying lap. And we will continue to talk about the changes as we watch Zuccarelli that just went through Radeon. Obviously, this track is pretty well known. It's an iconic circuit. It's been around for 100 years. So, I mean, the first race was in 1922. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the first 24-hour race they ever ran here at Spa. Obviously different configuration. I think at that time it was still very, very longer. Very much longer, I should say. Current configuration, 4.3 miles, 7 kilometers, and 20 corners. You'll see these guys running in the 2 minute and 11 second, which is actually, I believe, faster than a GT3 car here. So that just shows you the power these cars have with those 4-cylinder Ford EcoBoost engines. I wish my Ford EcoBoost engine I had in my Ford would put out 450 horsepower. That'd be really cool. I get places a lot quicker. Probably have a lot more speeding tickets too, to be fair. So as we're watching Zuccarelli now coming in through, you can see some of the added gravel trap on the outside of that corner. That is one of the changes that were made, I believe, to the track. So it gives them a little more, have to be a little tighter there because that was one of the places that several, that you could kind of take advantage of the track limits. It would cost you a 1x, but you make up a little bit of time without much of a slowdown. He works his way through Blanchemont, braking hard to get it to one of the slowest corners on the track, the bus stop chicane, and he'll be finishing his first lap, and we'll get some lap times in, and we'll see how everybody shakes out here. So 2:12.9 for his first lap. I think that's about a second off of his practice time. We see Vieira topping the charts now with 2:12.4. Our AM leader, Andy Vogel, comes in at 2:13.6. J.R. Gregory with 2:15.3. Joel Jacqueline with a 2:13.9. Got David Unger popping in, 2:13.8. So as our time's coming in, we'll keep an eye out and see if one of our other championship contenders, either Sanchez or Odo, pops up there to the top. Looking to see, I think Odo had a couple of off tracks on his first lap, or no, he's got a couple off tracks on his out lap. So he'll be trying to get the track limits right to get his first lap time in. As we see Volkel working his way down into Bruxelles. That is one of the places, as JR mentioned, that sausage curb on the inside of Jackie Ick's corner. That is one of the places you could really kind of attack the apex to try and make that corner a little bit tighter to get a good run out. It's not so much anymore. Looks like they've tightened that up a little bit, but as JR said, that the sight picture going in that corner is a little bit better, so it enables you to get a better lineup going in. It's always a good thing when you're out driving that you get a good sight on your braking and your turn-in markers as you make these corners. We'll see Odo now working his way through Lacoon. Using all that exit curb. I don't know. I think that the curbs, we're going to have to see how the cars handle the curbings here. I've seen some issues with the radicals handling some curbs, and it just depends on how they handle these. As we see them take a really, really wide entry line, and that's something you couldn't do with the old Scan. There was kind of on that entry outside entry curve, there was a drainage point through there, and you would very, very easily, even with a GT car, lock up or spin because the car just couldn't handle the change in the curb design. So it looks like that may have been alleviated with this new layout. So Odo now up with a 2:12.8, so up toward the top. Zuccarelli in third with a 2:12.9, and then Sanchez with that 2:13 flat, with another 2.5 minutes left in qualifying. Really, really hard on those corners. You can hear the tire scrubbing with that shot. Good shot from Josh there to get that suspension cam on the left front. Odo now with a 2:12.6. It was his best lap of qualifying. did not change his position, still sitting in second overall. So we're now back with JR. He's working his way out of Puhan. Through the S's, getting ready to head out to Paul Frere Curve. I think the curve prior to that, I think is Stabilo. I think that's right. And I'd have to go back and check my track map to make sure. He works his way through, and he's getting his car lined up for the run down the back stretch. We're listening in with the gyro cam here. Just flat through there. Never lifted at all. Just takes that, just the downforce of the car just allows you to just go fully flat through that corner. Much better entry there in bus stop. We're into our last minute. I believe since it's a solo qualifying that once you get your last lap done now, I think that's it. I don't think you'll get another chance. So I think once the 10-minute mark is done, as we see Sanchez now up to P3 with a 2:12.79. Binland working his way through Eau Rouge and Radion. JR and I had a little discussion before the broadcast started about where the drama was going to be, and he says he thinks that there might be a little drama through La Source at the start of the race. You know, even with a standing start, because their cars are going to be pretty packed together. But obviously, with cold tires going through Eau Rouge and Radion, the first time is going to be very treacherous with the cars stuck together as they are. And so qualifying is now done. So we'll get our qualifying results pulled up here for you. And here we are. So Lucas Vieira taking pole with a 2:12.3. Ryan Odo in second. Franco Sanchez in third. So our top three in the championship, our top three qualifiers. Diego Zuccarelli in fourth. John Benlett in fifth. Rylan Richard in sixth. And Andy Vogel, top of the AM class. Joel Jacklin in P8. David Unger in ninth. Adrian Fernandez in 10th. Charles Krasik in 11th. Hunter Reed in 12th. And rounding out the rest of the grid, J.R. Gregory in 13th, Luis Perez in 14th, and Cedric Oayan in 15th. So 15-car grid, we're lining up now. So as the cars get lined up here, we'll talk about the, just to give you a little quick blurb. If you're liking what you're seeing here in the Radical SimRacing series, the Radical Americas, invite you to check out and maybe sign up if you're into iRacing on radicalsimracing.com. You can come out and compete with these guys and test your ability against some of the best Radical drivers we've seen. I think these are really top-notch guys, and I think they'll give you a challenge should you choose to come out and race with us. We're waiting for the final 2 or 3 cars to line up on the grid. Lucas Vieira will be waiting for the lights to turn off, and we'll get this race started. This is our 15-minute sprint race. So that'll be about 7 laps, I believe, maybe 8. And then we'll take us a little break after that, and we'll get ready for our feature race. Still waiting on one more car. I believe that's David Unger that we're waiting to grid up. Here we go. Here come the lights. And there they go. And here's a good start. Looks like our top 3 got a really good jump off the line. Staying in their order. Although on the outside, kind of trying to make this way to the inside, but they go too wide through La Source. Everybody looks like they're coming out cleanly. And so now we've got our first run down the little short straight up to Eau Rouge. We'll see how it all looks. Looks like everybody's single file. Probably the right idea there. And so now we'll get our first little draft up Kimmel Straight as we get ready to head into Lacoon for the first time. J.R. Gregory had a good start. He's up 4 positions now. Ryan Odo's looking to move to the outside. Can't make the pass. So Sanchez remains in the lead. Odo in second, Vieira in third. Odo's looking for that way around. He's still just kind of probing around the outside of Sanchez. Still nothing yet. Make their way through Jackie Ick's corner. So everybody has survived so far. It looks like Unger did miss the start, but he is out on the track now. He's just going to be quite a bit behind the rest of the field. Looks like Vieira with a nice move around Odo to take over P2. Still nose to tail for most of the line as we see Unger there. He has a little bit of work to do. He's going to be a little bit behind the rest of the group, but not too far. He should be able to catch up to the back of the M class and start working his way up. It's going to be very difficult for him to draft his way up back to the front. So we'll see how he ends up at the end of the race, how many positions he can make up. We get our first time down into the bus stop chicane. Don't see any brake smoke, so it looks like everybody gets the car stopped nicely and safely as we see Odo now being some pressure applied by Zuccarelli. Oh, there we did see a little smoke on the back. I believe that was Pires. We see Odo and Zuccarelli. Oh, Zuccarelli backs out, so Odo manages to hang on to P3. And so now we'll make that next run through Erosion Radion, and we'll see if Zuccarelli can get that run through there to make a move going up Kimmel. And we're there with Hunter Reeve. So he's working his way around, up 3 positions as well, so having a good start to his race. Nice rear camera shot back to Joel Jacklin. Hunter with a defensive line makes his way around J.R. Gregory. Take that position over. That puts him up to P8 overall. And it looks like Zuccarelli has made the move around Odo, so I think he got a good run going up Kimmel. We'll see if we can get a replay of that. If not, we'll continue on here as we're watching the lead group of the pro class. Sanchez in front, Vieira second, Zuccarelli third. Odo fourth, Benelid, and then Richard rounds out your top 6. And then we've got Vogel and Reeve now, the top 2 in the M class. Gregory in third, P9 overall. Still very tight group back there. Looks like we've got a little bit of a draft train starting. So everybody just kind of staying nose to tail, but you do see a little bit of a gap back to Reeve, between Reeve and Vogel. And that gap is about, it's like a second and a half, so he's out of the draft range. He's going to have to do something to try and, get a good line, a good run going to try and make up that stagger. As we're on lap 2, we're already 4.5 minutes into this race. This race is going to go by very, very quickly because of the length of the track. So seeing JR get a little pressure on the outside. Oh, Zuccarelli off. Looks like he's long, too deep through the bus stop. That's dropped him down the order, so he's down. Yep. So we're going to see. Yep. Thanks, Josh. We'll see if we can get a replay of that. As we'll. Yep. Here we go. And we'll get a replay with Vieira. And we see Zuccarelli in the background. Odo trailing him. Yeah, just way late on the brakes there. Looks like there's just a little, either Zuccarelli just maybe locked the tires. He's hit a really good run coming down the front, down the straight, and just couldn't get the car stopped. Made contact with Sanchez behind, or in the back of Sanchez, and so Sanchez, or Vieira, I'm sorry, is who that was. And so not quite the race that Vieira wanted. So he's down to P6, Zuccarelli down to P8. So now they've got a chore to try and get back up toward the front of the field. There's just a little battle here between the 25 of Jacklin. I believe that's Fernandez as well, sitting behind. Fernandez nicely just kind of lays back, gives a spot up, doesn't want to fight through that corner just yet. Still a little Still a little more time left in the race, so he'll have a chance to make that gap back up. See the top two, Odo and Sanchez, still nose to tail. Odo did have the fastest lap of the race last lap with a 2:12.8, so his lap times are starting to come down a little bit, getting closer to what we were seeing in practice. My guess is with this draft behind Sanchez, he may be even a faster lap this time around, so we'll just kind of keep an eye on that and let you know as we see the nice run. Had to lift a little bit there. Yeah, just trying to make sure he gets his run lined up properly, not wanting to put too much pressure on Sanchez going through the corner and maybe not make contact. As we see now J.R. Gregory and Zuccarelli. Zuccarelli going to the inside, Krasik following him, and J.R.'s like, nah, I don't know that I'm going to let you have that spot just that easy, but can't fight him off. Loses the spot to Krasik. Zuccarelli now still in P8, trying to track down. Whoa! As a spin by Krasik there, coming out of the source. Looks like the rear just kind of lift the rear tires up. Maybe a little too hot on the throttle. As we see the battle now up the Kimmel Straight between Sanchez and Odo. Odo got a good run and has managed to make the pass before the entry into Lacombe. Sanchez trying to get the draft back and trying to make it up. No such luck here. Gonna have to settle for the remaining in second place as Odo now takes the lead. I don't think that's the last pass we'll see like that. We'll keep an eye out for him. And we see Andy Vogel now up to third because of the incident with Vieira and Zuccarelli earlier. I think he may be holding up a couple of these pro drivers in Richard and Bentley. So we'll see if they're going to see how patient they're going to be with Vogel and how long they're going to wait to make that move around. They don't want to give up too much time to the two lead cars if they can. Vogel doing a good job of just maintaining his pace and running the race as it comes to him. So he's managed to get up to the podium position overall. So we see this fight continuing with J.R. Gregory. Charles Krasik making the move around again. Adrian Fernandez manages to stay behind. I'm sure he'll be looking to see if he can make that same move as well on JR as the race continues on. Already halfway through the race, we're coming up to the 9-minute mark. And there's Fernandez on the outside of Blanchimont. Manages to make that move. Nice pass. That's a very difficult place to make a move, but gets the job done. Coming before he even gets into the kink there, and was able to make that pass and maintain the position. You see Reeve has now made his way around up into P6 ahead of Vieira. So it kind of makes me wonder if Vieira may have some damage on his car from the contact earlier with Zuccarelli. So it might not be the same, might not have the same pace in the car that he had prior to. Now Reeve just really hot on the tail of Bentley. Or, I'm sorry, it was Richard. Looking to the outside. Is able to make that pass around. That's Vieira over, yeah, it's Vieira over Reeve. My apologies. That moves Vieira up to 6th place with a 2-second gap up to Rylan Richard now. You see Joel Jacqueline in P8, has Zuccarelli behind him. Working their way through Jackie X corner. Our leader still nose to tail as they're coming around out of Puhan. Odo's starting to look really racy. He's really closing that gap up. 0.2 of a second, just right on the tail of Sanchez. See if he's going to try and make a move here going down the straight. No, he's not, because he's off in the gravel. So managed to catch the car but lost a little bit of time, lost a couple of tenths. So he's going to have to use the straightaway here to make that gap back up. And he'll have to look for that pass next time coming up Kimmel Straight. They're working their way down into bus stop. Sanchez doing a really good job just running his line, making it very difficult for Odo to get a look as they work their way down into La Source. Very late on the brakes by Odo, just really closing that gap. And now he's back to that 2 tenths. And so we'll be watching them as they work their way through Arouge Radion. And then up the Kimmel Straight, we'll see if Odo looks to capitalize on the draft and make the move around. And see if Sanchez goes defensive. And he does. He does stay on the inside, makes that defensive line. Odo with a good run. And he's managed to get alongside and passed. So Odo back into the lead, Sanchez in second. So we see cars behind. Also side by side, that's Benlid and Vocal. Benlid looking like he wants to try and get around Vocal and get that third spot overall. Not enough pace to make that happen just yet. With Rylan Richard straight right behind, running in fifth. And you have Zuccarelli stuck behind Joel Jacklin, one of the AM drivers. So big gap there between Jacklin and Reeve of about 3.5 seconds. So even if Zuccarelli gets around, he'll pick up a spot, but it's going to be very difficult to make up that time with only 2.5 minutes left in the race. I have to keep an eye out. It's going to be very close to white flag this lap. We'll have to keep an eye out where the leaders are. JR hanging behind Fernandez. Fernandez really wide on the exit of that corner, off from the gravel. See some more smoke. Somebody else has done some gravel driving. Really puts the cars to the limit of the track and then a little bit beyond. As we see Benlid still trying to work his way around Vocal. Vocal staying defensive on the inside of the line there going into the bus stop chicane. White flag is in the air. This is the last lap. Odo with the fastest lap of the race, 2:12.3. Stretched out a half-second gap over Sanchez. Vocal running in third as we're seeing the battle here between Vocal, Benlid, and Richard. Vieira is starting to close that gap down. He's within 1.3 seconds. That's just at the edge of draft range for these cars. So we'll see if he managed to get a sniff of a toe coming up through Radion and up the Kimmel Straight as these cars are going side by side. 69 car of Richard just can't decide who he wants to go with or if he wants to try and split the middle, but stays to the outside. Gets a good entry line going into Lacoon. Looks like Benlid has made the move. He has, and managed to kind of pinch Vocal down a little bit. Had to take a very shallow line through that corner and kind of held him up a little bit, but Benlid has moved up to P3. Vocal in fourth, still leading the AM class. Richard in sixth. Vieira now in seventh and closing quickly. So there's going to be another last lap battle there between those cars to see who's going to get those spots. We'll see probably some moves made coming down that final back stretch. So we see Franco Sanchez has now jumped back over Odo, so he had a good run at some point, probably up Kimmel to take the lead. Or Odo maybe, if we get a replay here from Josh. We see the run. Yeah, half-second gap. Got a good run through Radion. Takes the inside line. Odo stays on the outside, and then just kind of sloughs behind and tries to maybe return the favor, but no such luck as we're coming down to the final run down into the bus stop chicane. We got Sanchez to the inside, stay defensive. Oh, Odo trying to cross him over. Oh, got a good run out of the final corner. It's going to be a drag race to the checker flag. And it's going to be Sanchez over Odo by 0.08 of a second. Great finish by those guys. Benlid with the third, gets the podium. Vocal in fourth, takes the win in the AM class. Vieira gets by Rylan Richard at the end to get a fifth place. As the rest of the cars come in, Unger did manage to get up to P13, so he did manage to pick up a couple of spots over Pires and Oayan to end up in 13th, and we'll see those cars come across the start-finish line. We see Oayan here, and then Pires bringing up the rear of the field. Great job by Pires. You know, we talk about him week in and week out. He just comes out, he stays safe, he runs his race as best he can, tries not to interfere in anybody else's, and ends up more often than not finishing in a good position. So let's give our final standings in our sprint race. And your winner in sprint race is Franco Sanchez. Ryan Otto second by 0.08 of a second, very tight at the end. John Benlett in third. Andy Vocal in fourth. And the winner in the AM class, Lucas Vieira, rounds out your top five. Rylan Richard, Hunter Reeve, Joel Jacklin, Diego Zuccarelli, and Charles Krasik in 10th. Adrian Fernandez, J.R. Gregory, David Unger, Cedric Oayan, and Luis Pires rounds out your 15-car grid. And with that, we're going to take a short intermission as we get ready for the feature race, 45 minutes. So we'll be back in just a couple of moments. And welcome back. We're back, and we've got our in-car commentator, JR Gregory, back in with us. JR, sprint race turned out to be a pretty good race. We only had one incident between a couple of our front runners that kind of shoveled them back into the mid-pack, but looked like it was kind of turned out to be a little bit of a draft race.
Yeah, it was wild, man. And one thing I'd encourage the folks watching to keep an eye on is I'm going to call it the Spa merit badge, but obviously these cars, we talk about the draft every time we cover a race involving the SR10, and the draft is huge. So on the Kemmel Straight, you're always going to have a draft, and the only question is, what are you going to do with it? So it is pretty typical for the front driver being overtaken on a draft to want to cover the inside. And so that means you have to develop a special move here just for Spa going into Lacombe. You got to take that outside entry, break really deep, and beat your competitor to the second apex. And that's something I'd encourage you to keep an eye on during the race. It's a tough one to do. These cars are kind of challenging under braking, but there are some exciting stuff going on Lacombe's one and a number of times during the race. But I'm going to hop out on the grid, and I'll catch up with you guys later.
All right, JR, good race. We'll see you in a few. And here's our starting grid, which will look a lot like our finishing order from the feature race. Franco Sanchez on the pole, Ryan Odo in second, John Benlin in third, Andy Vogel in fourth, Lucas Vieira in fifth, Ryland Richard in sixth, Hunter Reed in seventh, Joel Jacklin in eighth, Diego Zuccarelli in ninth, Carlos Crazy rounds out your top 10 as we're started. And it looks like we had a really slow starter up front, and that is, I believe, Hunter Reed. Did not get a great jump, kind of falling back a little bit. Still too wide, so we'll see if there's a little more action going through Eau Rouge and Radion. The first lap looks like everybody's managed to get lined up, so that's probably a good thing. So no real battles on that first lap, and we'll watch as JR mentioned earlier, 3 wide going down Kemmel Straight on lap 1. We'll see who's going to be the last of the late breakers here. It looks like it's going to be Benlin on the outside. It gets kind of a nosed a little bit. We had a spinner. Trying to see who that is. That is, I think, Vogel, who spun in Lacombe. But everybody else managed to get through there safely. Sanchez in front, Odo in second, Vieira in third, Benlin down to fourth. So Vieira with a good start, up 2 positions. Charles Crazy with a very good start, up 5 spots. Running in 5th place overall. Ryland Richard in 6th. Fernandez, Reeves, Zuccarelli, JR Gregory round out your top 10. Oyan is now in 11th. Is up 3 spots. Joel Jacklin down 4 in 12th. Unger in 13th. Vogel down 10 positions from that spin. So he's at the back of the pack. And then Perez rounds out the grid as we continue back up to the front with Sanchez, Odo, and Vieira, our 3 championship front runners, who are now nose to tail. And we're going to watch the fireworks here. I think, with a 45-minute race, it kind of stands to reason they're going to be a little more cautious during the course of the race. They're going to try and stay together as best they can and just maybe try and check out from the rest of the field and see if they can get a good gap so they can have that battle amongst themselves. Benlin's not having any of that. He's staying right on the tail of Vieira, running in 4th. There is starting a little bit of a gap between him and Ryland Richard. As you heard JR Gregory said, it doesn't matter. You're going to get a tow off the car in front. So there is a chance for those guys to tighten that pack back up as we see kind of a little dip into the inside by Odo there. You got a little bit higher line through the apex of turn 1. We work our way back up through Eau Rouge Radion. And the run now up, and we see Sanchez stays on the defensive line. Odo moves to the outside. Vieira is hanging with, now he tries to move out, and then Sanchez covers that. Odo takes the lead. Sanchez drops down to 2nd, Vieira in 3rd. Benlin is back up with that group in 4th. Krasik is now up to P5. Ryland Richard in P6, and that gap is starting to grow a little bit more between 4th and 5th. It's up to about 1.7 seconds. as we're on board with Diego Zuccarelli, who is running at 8th. He's got the AM car of Fernandez in front. I'm sure he's going to want to get by as quickly as he can. But it's going to be, as JR said, you know, there's a couple of good places to pass, and you've always got a good draft. So we'll see if he can make the car stick around once these tires get up to temp properly, and see if he can make a move around maybe one of the corners that maybe Fernandez doesn't expect. As we see back on board with Odo, the lead group. That 4-car group has kind of just really stretched the gap out now. It's almost 2 seconds between Benlin and Krasik. So it looks like it's going to be these 4 cars vying for that lead and vying for that top spot at the end of the race. As we get the interval pulled up on the screen, you can see the gap now between Benlin and Krasik, 2.1 seconds. Those cars between 6th and 10th, pretty well tight together. Then you got about a 1.7 second gap back to Oyan. You know, with that's not out of the not too far out of the edge of the draft range, he might can make that time up. He had a really good start again, as we talked about earlier. So we'll see if he can make that gap up, as Vocal now is starting to make the charge back up through the field. After that spin, he's up to now 12th place, as we see a spin from, that's Ryan Odo. So wonder if maybe, not sure what happened, but the last lap he took a very, very tight line through turn 1. So maybe that was a little bit too much for him and lost the rear of the car, lost that, got a spin. So he's dropped back down to 4th behind Billy. We get a little replay here. We see Odo coming his way down the front straight, down into turn 1, heavy on the brakes. Yeah, just the compression there in turn 1, you can kind of see the car kind of dip, and maybe too much throttle as the car decompressed coming out, and so too much throttle, lost the rear of the car, spun a little bit. So now he has made his way back around Bindlet. He's back up to 3rd, and he is starting to tighten that gap back up to the front too. So obviously he got some good pace in the car. He does have the fastest lap of the race so far, as we see the group now headed up by 69 of Ryland Richard. Look there at Charles Krasik in the middle of that pack. Still having a good run, up 3 spots. Looking for a way around Fernandez. No such luck yet. So it's going to be one of those, I think, with this group. Or Krasik is going to spin a little bit, and he's going to give up a couple of spots. That lets Fernandez, Zuccarelli, and Reeve around. Drops Krasik back down to P9. And right in front of our good buddy JR Gregory. We will try and check in with JR when he's during the race, when he's not in the middle of a battle such as he is. So we'll let him drive for the time being, and if it slows up for him, we'll bring him in and let him talk about what's going on. But as of now, he's running P10, and he's right on the tail of the big group there from P6 back, as we see a battle here between Owayan and, couldn't tell who that was. I think it was Vocal in the 34 car. Owayan just, once again, too much throttle. I think the compression on these couple of these corners are starting to bother the cars just a bit. That's a very tight line there by Joel Jacklin going through turn 1. Just basically right up against the barrier, but manages to make the car get around the corner, and he's ahead of, let's see, that's David Unger in the 54. And now Unger is going to have that run, and let's see if he can make something of it as we're coming up the front straight. I'm sorry, Kimmel straight. Yep, comes to the inside. Nice, easy pass. So, nice, easy by Unger. Makes the move around Jacklin to pick up to P12. So he's up in position from the start of the race, and he's just kind of working his way methodically up the field. You see this battle here between Fernandez and Zuccarelli, who is now in P6, up 3 positions. Ryland Richard right behind. So we've got a couple of pro cars kind of in the mix of the AM battle here. Fernandez is leading the AM class. So he's going to want to keep those cars behind him as kind of a It's kind of a rear guard if you can. We see Richard Zuccarelli looking to the inside. No such luck there going through the corner. Come around into Paul Frere to get that run down the back straight, down to Blanchemont. See if Zuccarelli has eyes to make a move here. Get this pass done so we can try and make up some gap up to the cars in front. Lift, a little lift, just kind of timing his run. Gets the move done to the inside. Late on the brakes. Makes the pass going into bus stop. That's pretty textbook. That's exactly how you should be doing that. So well done by Zuccarelli. Moves him up to P5. Now he's got a chore. He's got about 4.5 seconds up to P4. So he'll have to hope those guys up front are going to continue to battle. That'll give him a chance to make up some of that time. Meanwhile, he's going to be trying to pull, Fernandez is going to try and just stay behind him and try and get that toe and maybe get himself a gap between him and the other cars behind. Odo now as we're on back to the front of the grid, looking to the outside. That's Vieira looking to the outside. Wow, that was a nice move by Odo. Kind of, crossed over Vieira down the straightaway. As Vieira was kind of looking up, Odo manages to get the run with a little bit of help from Sanchez in the lead. We see cars side by side through Lacoon. That is Ryland Richard and Fernandez, Hunter Reeve in the back of that pack. Fernandez doing a really good defensive job there, trying to keep those cars behind. Running the proper line just to fight them off. Make them take the long way around, and no such luck as of yet by Richard. Hunter Reeve is just kind of sitting back there watching the festivities in front. And then we've got back to the front of the group, on board with John Benelin. Running in fourth. Has Vieira in front of him, Odo in second, Sanchez up in first, and that's just wide coming out of Paul Frere. Manages to hold the car, good straight line, but now he's really got a gap, so he's got to hope that he can, that these guys are going to battle, and they probably will. I mean, we've seen Odo being very aggressive and taking advantage of that draft, making passes, so we'll see those side by side again, I'm sure, as we have going through bus stop chicane. And now we've got Ryland Richard finally making the move around Fernandez. Jumps the curb there, going into the bus stop chicane, but able to hold the car in line and pick up that position. So now he'll see if he can set his sights to Zuccarelli up in front, about a 1.5 second gap. Zuccarelli kind of running by himself, so he maybe should be able to make that gap up. So it was, as those cars behind will just kind of run together, and they'll run faster as a group than they will as a solo. So I think what we'll see is Richard be able to make the ground up as we're on, keeping our focus now on Zuccarelli as they head up the Kimball Straight. As what we're not seeing, as we see here, is Odo up to the lead again. Sanchez fighting back side by side going through Lacoon. Odo able to make the pass. That allows Benelin to catch back up, so he's now back in that group of 4. Vieira just kind of hanging out in third, not really doing anything. I think those two guys are just content to lay back, probably doing some fuel saving back there in that group, in the back of that group of 4. So that'll help them out on their pit stop, and maybe they'll get a little bit of a undercut strategy working here as we're keeping on board. And Odo's actually just trying to check out, so maybe Sanchez is thinking about fuel as well, as he's pulled up a 0.7 of a second gap over the second through fourth. So maybe some strategies already starting to be put into effect here. So we'll keep an eye out and see if they just let Odo go, or if they try and tighten that pack back up. On board now with Vieira, sitting in third. A little lift there, a little lift on the exit. Oh yes, definitely, definitely fuel saving. We lifted very early for the bus stop chicane, so they're definitely looking at their fuel mileage and saying, okay, we're gonna try and save a little bit since we're sitting back here in third. So I think that they're content to let Odo be the pacemaker at the front of this field, and said, you know what, we'll just sit back and we'll get a tow, and we'll save fuel as best we can, and we'll see if we can beat him in the pit stop cycle. As we look down the field a little bit further, Reeve has now worked his way up into P1 overall in the AM class, 7th overall in the grid. He's made his way around Fernandez and is now just on the back edge of Roland Richard. So he's doing a good job of hanging on to that second group of cars. You see Vieira, Sanchez, Bindle still trailing behind Odo, you know, half second back, so they're still well within draft range. So when it comes time to go, they'll be right there. Odo is just like I said, he just has been very aggressive at the beginning of the race, and so they're happy to oblige him and let him be out front. Have a pitter already. Charles Krasik has entered the pits and has decided he's going to try the undercut, maybe run some clean air for a bit. As you see him exiting the pits now, 53.3 stop time. So looks like a pretty standard stop, taking fuel. I don't know, maybe take tires. That seems like a long stop as I sit here and think about it. Probably had enough fuel on board to finish the race, unless, you know, maybe he came in with quality fuel. I'm not sure. Anyway, like I said, it seems like a long stop though, so don't know if that's tires or maybe more fuel than he wanted. But either way, he's back out on the track now, and he can run his race and run his pace, and run by himself for a bit as other cars decide to come into the pits a little bit later on during the race. I expect pit stops to be around the 30-minute mark as we see Unger lighting the rears up coming out of the bus stop chicane. On board here with JR, running in P9, sitting right behind Fernandez. He's third in, JR's running third in the M class, still battling pretty hard. Got a good run as we see coming up, and has the outside line coming up Kimmel Straight and make that pass nice and easy as we see him go immediately over to the defensive line. Like he's kind of weaving a little bit, trying to break the draft up, and then Fernandez able to be late on the brakes and get back around. So we talked about that with JR. He mentioned it earlier. Is you have to be the last of the late breakers going up there if you're going to hold on to the spot, and we saw exactly that. On board now with Diego Zuccarelli, running in fifth. He's in that second group of cars. Has Roland Richard and Hunter Reeve behind him. A little further back in the background, you can see the gap between these three and Gregory and Vogel. Some wide lines coming out of Paul Frere Curve. Looks like Benley's kind of dropped off this group a little bit. I think may have been because of that wide exit. Sanchez X is back in the lead, so he's made a pass over Odo. He's like, you know what, I want to lead for a little bit. Odo has dropped down to second. My guess is that we'll get another run here. Odo will try and reassert himself back up to the front. See the run here as we're back through, going back into Eau Rouge and Radillon. Cars are doing a really good job of handling the compressions through Eau Rouge. It's a concern of mine prior to the race, but so far they've handled that well. There's been compressions in other parts of the track that they weren't necessarily doing as well with. Yeah, you definitely hear Vieira just kind of lift there, saving fuel. Coming up, Kimmel doesn't want to get out to the front, just wants to kind of ride where he is and try and play the fuel strategy game. Odo manages to stay in second. Sanchez stays in the lead. Sanchez with the defensive line going up the straight. Odo not challenging onto the outside. As we see a battle between Fernandez and Gregory at P8 and P9, swapping positions back and forth. And we see Vocal has now come into the pits as well. As I'm looking at my timing and scoring screen, our SDK graphics. As we get a replay here, and this is it's Andy Vocal. On the inside of the 25 car of Jacqueline. Yep, and just comes into the pits. That's nice, easy pit entry. Lets the other guys go. He said, I'm going to come in now. So he's definitely a short stop, 13.4 stop time. So definitely Krasik did some kind of strange strategy on his pit. Either took tires or took a lot of fuel. Either way, his stop was significantly longer than Vocal. Vocal's stoppage time was 13.4, 40.8 from cone to cone, as we say, from pit entry line to pit exit line. And now we've got Sanchez coming in, so he's going to undercut and come into the pits now at the 20-minute mark of the race. It's going to be interesting to see where he comes out. Because 40 seconds, so we're talking about probably 35 seconds of track time. He's going to be coming out somewhere toward the back around P12 or P13, so he's going to be able to do a bit of drafting maybe to make up some of his time and work his way back up. So this might be a good strategy. We'll see how this plays out over the course of the race. Vieira is now up to the lead. He's passed Odo. Benlett is now in third, Zuccarelli fourth, Rylan Richard in fifth. Hunter Reed still leads your AMS. And Sanchez comes out directly in front of Cedric Oyon. So he's got about a 10-second gap up to Joel Jacqueline. His lap times were quite a bit quicker than Jacqueline, so he'll make that time up pretty quickly. So it'll be up to these drivers up here in front on when they're going to come into pit. As we see Vieira with a good run going up the Kimmel Straight, was able to make that move early. Maybe not the best line for Odo coming through there. Odo tries to tuck back in and maybe get a little bit of a draft to try and challenge back on the inside. With no such luck, he backs out and Vieira takes the lead. So nice pass. Exactly what we've seen from a lot of these cars during the race. Luis Perez is now in the pits as well. Oh, I'm just sitting here thinking about it. As I was looking, Charles Krasik's pit time was about 40 seconds longer than Andy Vocal, so he may have had a pit entry penalty. As I'm sitting here doing the mental math in my head, that kind of feels like that's what the issue was with Krasik. So we see Perez coming out of the pits, back out on track. 34-second stop, so he may have taken in some tires along with fuel. I have heard that the tire wear is a little more abrasive with the new scan, at least for some of the prototypes in the IMSA series. Seems like the tire wear is a little more significant. I don't know how that affects these radicals. Maybe we'll ask JR when we bring him back in the next time. As we've approached, we're at the halfway point of the race. You see Vieira Odo on the outside. Gets to run, gets back out into the lead. So that 3-car pack, Odo, Vieira, and Benlid. And now our second 3-car pack that contains Hunter Reeve, Rylan Richard, and Adrian Fernandez. Sorry, that's Diego Zuccarelli, who's running in fourth. along with Reed and Richard. Fernandez a little further back, along with J.R. Gregory. They're still battling amongst themselves for P7 and P8. Cedric Oyan has now made his pit stop. Coming back out in P13, pretty standard stop, 13.2 stop, 42 seconds overall. So a little more cautious maybe on pit entry and exit to make sure that he's under the proper speed. Hey, JR, can you hear me?
I can, Charles.
All right. Hey, so we saw you with a nice battle with Adrian Fernandez there. You kind of racing against each other, and he's pitted, so kind of left you out there by yourself. So how's the race going?
Pretty good. I'm having fun out here. He kind of juked me on that pit. I probably should have followed him in. Now I'm on an island out here, which is never good at Spa. I almost got a 213 flat the last time around, and you're gonna see my real pace this time without the draft.
Well, I think that's what we're seeing as well from a lot of the other cars also. So one thing I mentioned a little bit earlier during the race was from just talking with some teammates of mine. It seems like maybe the tire wear is a little more severe with this track configuration. Are you seeing that as well with the Radical?
I hope not. I was not part of my plan to take tires. 45 minutes at Spa traditionally should not cause a tire problem. So I hope I got that right, and we'll see as it's ticking down here. It shows about 18 minutes remaining. So.
Yeah, we're on the back half of it now as we see Zuccarelli come into the pits for his stop. So you're on that island. You've got Jacqueline and Unger behind you a little bit, probably 2.5 seconds or so. We're going to let you get back to it, and just wanted to let you come in and chat a bit, and we'll let you get back and prepare for your pit stop.
All right, old man. So how's the race? You guys having fun?
Oh yeah, it's been a good race. Been lots of the draft battles are going as expected, as we see Unger in as well. It's about what we expect. We got a couple of nice 4-card packs that are doing some battling, and so we're watching them swap back and forth. So we'll keep an eye out for you as well, and see how you do against Fernandez with his early pit stop.
Yeah, I'm hoping. We'll see. I'm hoping to come out ahead of him, but. All right. It's the undercut here may not be the best idea because you're driving heavy for more laps than if you run it dry. So We'll see how it turns out, and we'll catch you guys later.
All right, thanks, JR. We'll catch you later.
Yeah, take care.
All right, that's JR Gregory, our in-car commentator for tonight. Still out running his race. He's up to P6 as the pit stops are continuing. We're at the 28-minute mark of the race, about 17 minutes left to go. Should be seeing everybody coming in pretty soon. Didn't ask him, but to give away any secrets or anything. So, but these cars are not unlimited fuel, so I think around at the latest, the 35-minute mark would be the latest I would see anybody coming in. So we should see the rest of the field come in very, very soon. So we thank JR for coming in and chatting with us and giving me a little chance to get a sip of water during the race as we let him talk about what's going on out there on the track. So let's focus back in. We got John Binlett in to the pits now. That's second of our big group of 4 in the front. So we'll see how his pit stop goes, as well as Hunter Reeve is also in our second group of 4 that we had out there. And so we'll see how this all shakes out. If those undercuts that were done by Sanchez and Fernandez and Vocal, how those all shake out as we see more cars come in. JR's in now as well as Joel Jacklin coming in, who was just behind JR about 2 seconds. So we'll see how this all comes out as we see Binlett has already headed back out on the track with a 12.3 second stop. Brings him up to P4. And more importantly, he is ahead of Franco Sanchez by as we see Jacklin coming out. We'll get some timings here amongst these guys as they get settled back in. We see Fernandez is back in front of JR Gregory, so the undercut at least makes it even. So JR is going to have a little bit of work to do. He's got about a 2 second gap up to Fernandez. Sanchez is now ahead of Binlett by a half second, so that gap was very close. The heated tires probably helped out a little bit, and just getting a good run coming out up the Kimmel from the car exiting the pit. We're on board here with the 8 car, which is John Binlett. As you can see, Sanchez directly in front of him. So that's about a 9/10 of a second gap. So he's well within draft range. So as the cars get on these 2 straightaways that we're going to see here in just a moment, you'll see those tighten back up and they'll start working together. And we'll see if that helps out when Vieira and Odo decide they're going to come in. And it looks like they're coming in right now. So we're going to get this. We're going to see which pair of cars shakes out in the lead as we see Vieira and Odo just really aggressive, close as he can get. And Ron Richard in as well in that second group. And that is the last of our cars to pit. So everybody will have pitted once these cars come back out. And we'll keep an eye on Odo and Vieira and where they shake out amongst Sanchez and Binlett, who are coming around on the track now, coming up the front straight and going down into turn 1. It looks like they're going to be right behind this other group. Yep, they are indeed. So it looks like it's going to be back to that 4-car pack very, very shortly, as those cars are still trying to get up to speed. Sanchez and Binlett on the hot tires should be able to start slowly reeling in that front group. The gap up is about 2.5 seconds. Pretty easy stops for everybody. Looks like everybody's around the same stoppage time. Binlett a little bit longer, but hasn't really hurt him. You see Zuccarelli has now made his way up to 5th, coming down the front straight. Richard with the inside defensive line, but that's very difficult to do, as we've seen time and again on this track. As we see Joel Jacklin there, also defensive line with David Unger behind. They're right behind Andy Vocal. And you see JR Gregory up in front of them. Fernandez is just about 2 seconds ahead. So these cars will probably end up together before the race is over with. See the tail of the car just wants to slip around and try and lead the car around the corner. Good job, all these drivers. Just keep the car rolling and in through the corner. carrying as much momentum as they can. So we see back up front, Odo with a wide line coming out of Paul Frere. Shouldn't hurt him too much. Half-second gap up to Vieira. Gap's kind of grown between these two cars and Sanchez and Midland. It's up to about 3 seconds. As these cars, as we see them tight together, we see the second group, Sanchez and Binlid, just behind. We'll see if Odo decides he wants to make that run up through the Kimmel Straight to make the pass back around and lead again. If he does, that will slow those cars down a little bit, especially if they start fighting through the corners. So you have to be very aware of that. So they're working their way around the endurance straight, endurance pit straight. Odo with a big run. Oh, a little wide there coming through Radion by Vieira. Kind of arrested his momentum just a bit. Odo makes a run on the outside. And is able to make the pass into Lacombe. Work their way down the hill through Stabilo and through Bruxelles. On board there with Sanchez, who's still, trailing those front two cars by about 3 seconds. Binlid right behind. You see J.R. Gregory working on the inside line there. Looks like Vocal gets through, but Joel Jacklin does not. J.R. dropped a spot down. He's down to P10. So it'll be up to him to see if he can keep up as we're back on front with Odo. Still just that 0.3 of a second gap back to Vieira. So we'll see if Vieira, how racy he wants to be here with about 10 minutes left in the race. He wants to battle through these straightaways and just kind of doing the leapfrog, as we would call it, the draft pass, and see if that's the action he wants to take, or if he's willing to just kind of stay back behind and wait to that last lap to make the move and see if he can make it stick. Working their way down through Blanchemont. Final run down into the bus stop chicane. Yep, Vieira, is fine with just kind of hanging back. Maybe he short fueled just a little bit. His was the fastest of the. Well, he and Sanchez were the fastest of the pit stops in the front group. So maybe they short fueled, hoping they could do a little fuel saving in the remainder of the race, and that will allow them to carry a little less weight and maybe give them a little more speed in the final couple of laps. We see him looking to the outside. Odo very, very tight on the inside of that line as he works her way through Eau Rouge. Now back the run back up Kimmel. Odo with the defensive line. Vieira to the outside, makes the pass around. Odo tucks back in, trying to get the draft back to see if he can battle, and he cannot. So they're going to stay Vieira in first, Odo in second. The group in behind is still losing a little bit of time. It's up to about 3.5 seconds now back to Sanchez. So still losing time to this front group. Looks like I did see some cars up front, so maybe some lap traffic involved here very soon. Maybe Luis Perez that's up in front of this group. Perez has done a really good job of giving the leaders room to race, really trying to just stay out of the way. So I'm assuming that's what he'll do again as well. As they get a little bit closer, they'll probably get the run down the back stretch in Blanchemont as they're gaining time coming through him. Gaining time on him coming down through Paul Frere. Yeah, as we're 9-minute mark, as you see him just pull off to the left, slow down, allow those guys to work their way around. He'll do the same thing again for that second group as they get there. Odo still just kind of looking, searching. Yep, he's going to make the move down to the inside, going into the bus stop. Lay on the brakes, makes the move stick. And that's going to give Vieira the draft coming back up Kimmel. So I'm assuming this will be the he's kind of testing that move now for maybe later in the race to see if he can make that work out for him at the end to get the win. So that might have been a test to see what kind of gap he was going to need. As we see Joel Jacklin on the outside, J.R. Gregory stand on the inside, stand defensive, holds the position, manages to maintain that 10th position overall, and 4th in the AM class. Jacklin staying in 11th. As we see Vera, as you see the graphics change, Vera back out in front, coming up Kimmel. Takes the lead back over from Odo as they work their way through. As we see another lap car of Charles Krasik. Done a nice job just letting those guys race. The gap has started to close up a little bit between Odo and Sanchez. It's back down to 3 seconds. So that second group is starting to make their way back up. Maybe the lap traffic has given them a little bit of assistance. They can get a little bit of a tow off the car in front and maybe pick their times up another half second or so in a couple of these straightaways. As we see Sanchez has now kind of given himself a gap back to Bentley of about a full second. So Bentley not quite out of draft range yet, but he's going to have to just really work hard to stay there and see if he can close that gap back up, or he'll end up losing that draft. And as we heard JR said, that you'll see the true pace of the car once you're out of the draft range with as we approach 5 minutes to go. So we're going to be about 3 laps, I think, based on where the cars are on track. Vera and Odo still looking down the inside, backs out that time. See the lap car of Krasik trailing behind. Fastest lap of the race for Vieira, 2:11.4. Great lap. That's back up to what we saw in practice, as we see him get a little squirrely coming out of turn 1. Had to kind of adjust his steering a little bit. That's going to give Odo a chance to get that run. Very tight between those two cars coming up into Radion and now up the Kimmel Straight. Vieira this time stays wide, allows Odo to take to the inside, and Odo backs out. So interesting. I think he's deciding that he wants to run in the final straight as opposed to up the Kimmel Straight. We see Gregory still fighting with Jacklin there, battling that 10th position overall. Gregory doing a lot of weaving to try and break that draft. Jacklin moves to the inside. So based on what JR said, he's going to try and lay on the brakes and try and stay really wide to work his way around. Not quite enough there. Jacqueline's able to take the spot. That's going to give JR a chance to get that spot back going down the back straight. So he's got to stay with Jacqueline and keep that gap down to about 2 or 3 tenths, if at all possible. Back on board now with Volkel, who has Fernandez. That is the battle for P8 and P9 and P2 in the AM class. Reeve has basically set himself apart from this group. He's up by about 7 seconds over this group that includes Volkel and Fernandez, just ahead of Jacqueline and Gregory. Odo now, Vieira defensive, late move there to try and cut the run of Odo off. So now the games are beginning, and yep, this will be 2 laps to go this time by. As you see, no white flag out that time by our flagman up at the front in the tower. And so now we got Vieira and Odo heading back down the endurance pit straight, working their way up through Eau Rouge and Rayon for 2 more times. And 1 more time after this. Odo with a good run, looks to the inside. Side by side going up Kimmel. Looks like he kind of stalled out. His run kind of stalled out a little bit. Manages to make the pass at the very last second. So good job by Odo. And so now Vieira is going to be looking around, seeing, okay, now how am I going to pass him and where as we get on this lap, as we work our way back to the white flag. This is going to be a battle all the way to the checkered flag. It's the way it looks from my point of view is these cars, as you see, oh, Odo got a little squirrely coming out of Jackie Ick's corner, manages to hang on to the spot. They worked their way through Puhan. Just nose to tail. So you see Sanchez has kind of separated himself back there. He's now worked his way around the lap car of Charles Krasik. Been comfortably in fourth position, but not in a position to challenge Sanchez at this point anymore. So, but should be safe for a fourth overall, as he has about a 5-second gap over Zuccarelli in fifth. Zuccarelli has got Richard right on his tail, so that might be a last lap battle as well. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, as Odo has still in the lead. Vieira, Odo with the defensive line. Vieira, crossed over, not so much. Says, I'm going to stay right here as we come to the white flag, last lap. And now it's time for the fireworks to start as we are coming down into La Source for the last time. Everybody gets a good run through there. So now we're going to see what moves people are going to make here. We've got Vieira really right up on the tail of Odo, 0.2 of a second. Perfect position here for the run. Both nice safely through Eau-Rouge and Radeon. Odo stays defensive. Vieira goes to the outside. Odo tucks back in. Vieira trying to break the draft, weaving side to side down Kimmel Straight. Manages to hold that position. So now it's Vieira in front, Odo in second, as we work our way down through Bruxelles. A little look to the inside by Odo there. Don't think there was any chance of him trying to make a move in that corner. So we work our way back through Jackie Ick's corner. Vieira very tight there. I think he jumped the curb actually, or caught the curb. Down through Puhan, using all the corner and the curbing on the outside. Final time down through this S section. I was trying to give him just a little bit of a gap. It's up to about a half second. He wants a good run. He wants to be able to stay flat through down the back straight through Blanchimont. He wants the best run he could possibly get. So now we'll start seeing those intervals start closing up very quickly. Down under at 0.5. Down to under 0.3. Here comes the late move. He's going to stay to the outside. Going to try and cross him over at the bus stop. Inside. Oh, a little touch. I think that was enough to keep Vieira, and Vieira takes the win. Odo in second. Sanchez in third. Benley fourth. Sanchez with a monster last lap, 2:11.7. Zuccarelli rounds out your top five. Richard in sixth. And then we'll wait for Hunter Reeve, who is the winner in the AM class, 7th overall. We got the last lap battle there with Jacqueline and J.R. Gregory. And it's going to be Jacqueline over Gregory. And then Vocal rounds out your top 10. So great race. Looks like a little bit of contact there in the bus stop chicane may have made that not possible for a side-by-side finish. I think it just kind of cut the lines out, but well done by everybody involved. Very clean race, 45 minutes, no real incidents. We had one spin at the very beginning, but overall, fantastic job as we got our final car crossing the start-finish line so we can give you our final results. Hunter Reed laying down some 11s there on the straightaway. And let's get you our final results. Should be coming up, and there they are. So Lucas Vieira gets the win over Ryan Odo in second, Franco Sanchez in third, John Benlid in fourth, Diego Zuccarelli in fifth, Rylan Richard in sixth. Hunter Reed takes your AM class win, P7th overall. Joel Jacklin in eighth, J.R. Gregory gets the final stop of the podium in the M class in ninth. Andy Vogel rounds out your top 10. In 11th, we have David Unger, Adrian Fernandez in 12th, Cedric Oyan in 13th, Charles Krasik in 14th, and Luis Perez rounds out your 15-car finishing order. So I believe that we've got a driver in there for an interview. So let's bring in our second place driver, Ryan Odo. Ryan, this is Charles in the booth. Congratulations on your P2. Really pretty dramatic battle between you, Vieira, and Sanchez for the first half of the race, and then you and Vieira for the second half of the race. So just give us what was going through your mind during that event.
The 15-minute race, it was just trying to time it correctly. Sadly, I got the laps wrong, so I was stuck behind Franco, and I thought I could get him on that chicane, but there's a little bump on the apex of that first chicane. I hit it, my rear tire started to spin, and well, that got rid of my run completely. Second race, it was just back and forth. There was like 1,001 things that happened, and every single pass that we did or staying behind was for something. Towards the end, it was trying to time it correctly. I timed it wrong, and I tried to get him on that. On that chicane on the last lap, but I locked up too. So I thought I could maybe pin him to the apex, but didn't work. He was able to get a better run than I did, and he beat me.
Yeah, that's kind of what we saw up here as well. We didn't notice any. It looks like everybody got through Eau Rouge pretty clean. That heavy compression there, but it looked like there were like turn one and then also the bus stop. There's some couple of compression points there that seemed like people were struggling with a little bit during the race.
Yeah, I think, well, cold tires is definitely the biggest factor because, well, we've practiced for this race for quite a while now, and we're all used to the warm tires. And when it comes to the draft, which gets rid of downforce, as well as cold tires, which gets rid of grip, that's when it all comes down. And that's why you saw there was a lot of problems on the first corner and the bus stop, because they are especially tight as well. So there's even less room for mistakes.
But there you go. So expert opinion, I'll take that. So one final race left in the season at the Nordschleife in 2 weeks. So you looking forward to that race?
Yes, I'm really looking forward to that race. It's going to be I hope it's actually in the night, because I think that would be really cool for an ending, but I know a lot of drivers here don't like the night. So what will probably happen is it'll be like this race, where it'll be part-time day and then the next night where the lights turn on halfway through. But yeah, I'm really excited for that race. It's a track that I actually only recently got, but I've gotten to grips to it pretty fast, because knowing it's 112 corners or something crazy like that,
right?
I put in some serious practice with some other cars. So
awesome. Well, congratulations, Ryan, and we'll look to hearing from you and seeing you in 2 weeks at the Nürburgring.
Yep. See ya.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was Ryan Odo, P2 overall on our race day. We're going to bring in JR for a little wrap up. JR, looks like you managed to had another good little battle there with Joel Jacklin at the end of the race. Not quite enough to just to nip him, but overall, so what are your thoughts overall for the race tonight?
I thought it was a blast, Charles. When we first rolled in with the small field, I was a little worried that it would become dull and the cars would spread out because Spa is such a long track. But it sure didn't feel like that's how it unfolded. I was always in the draft and contesting that entry to Puhan and contesting the bus stop on almost every lap. It seemed like it was going on all around me, and I could hear the spotter calls of all the lead changes up front. So it was a fantastic race. And I took almost 2 seconds off my PB. So
there you go.
There may be a hidden message in there regarding practice. I don't know. I'm still trying to put my finger on it, but I think that's possible, that seat time makes you go faster. So I'm going to be analyzing that in the coming weeks.
Oh, absolutely. So 2 weeks time, the Nürburgring, Nordschleife.
Nice. Yeah.
So Ryan, we talked with Ryan Odo a minute ago. He wants night race. He said he felt like he might be in the minority for that opinion. So what are your thoughts?
I would be 100% behind that, man, because being the elder statesman out here, my whole game out there is to stay chill and keep the car clean and keep it on the track, and that's where most of my gains come from in these races. Got another podium out of this one, and I'm not sure how many legit passes I had, but I know I passed a few people that were in the barriers and in the grass. So Nürburgring is a classic track for that approach. Just keep it clean, keep it chill, and I'll tell you, if it's at night and you hit those barriers wrong, you don't have any lights. So at Nordschleife, a minor incident, somebody nosing into the Armco there, they could possibly have to take a tow just because of the lights when they ordinarily could keep driving. So I think it sounds great, and with the caveat that, of course, I would feel sorry for Josh. It's very hard to do cameras in a night race on the Nürburgring,
sure.
And it's moderately crappy to watch it on TV, I think. But we have such good announcers here. I'm sure y'all will find a way to keep it interesting and keep it fun. But I'm a long answer to a short question. I'm trying to stand in a little bit for Ron here because I know you've been talking a lot. So I'm gonna give it a Ron 3-4 minute run here, but. I'm looking forward to it. Nordschleife is fantastic, and it's one of those tracks where you take a certain amount of pride. There's a special kind of adrenaline when you're sitting on the grid at Green Hell, and there's a special feeling of accomplishment after you've driven on it for 45 minutes and kept it clean and navigated those 150 some odd corners per lap. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I love the Green Hell.
I mean, I completely agree with you. I did the, early in my iRacing career, I did the NEC 4-hour race solo, and then immediately decided I was never going to do that again. That accomplishment, just finishing the race, was enough. Actually trying to compete there and try and get a good result is not part of what I wanted to do. But it's one of those things that everybody should do at least once if you're an iRacer. Because it is, I've always said that the Nürburgring is the truest test of a driver because it's just such a difficult track to get. You don't have any room for mistakes, right? You have to be almost perfect every single lap, every single corner, and so I'm assuming, I'm sure it's no different with these radicals. They've always really put out really good races. I've seen some of the radical races here during the officials, and just fantastic racing with these cars on that track.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right about the precision needed in the SR10, Charles, because I'm a GT3 driver by trade, and you can kind of bounce those GT3s over some of these curbs on Nordschleife and make some minor errors and bounce over the curbs and survive. But with these radicals, they don't like bouncing. They don't like that when that splitter lifts up off the track, and they lose a lot of downforce. So absolutely. And pro tip, man, that NEC 4-hour solo, that's how I keep my safety rating up. So I do that. I do that every time it comes up, and I come out of it with a 499 safety rating. So
There you go. There's an inside tip from Jr. Gregory. So Jr., we do appreciate your time and coming in and helping us out during this in Ron's absence. And with that, we're going to close out the broadcast for tonight. Be with us. Hey, if you want to watch some more Apex Racing TV, we do have the Rick Motek mini mics on Monday nights, and this Monday night I think it's at Indianapolis if JR's notes are correct. And you can join me and Ron again on Tuesday for round 6 of the Operation E Motorsport League, which is fantastic, just fantastic racing. It's multi-class. It'll be here at Spa again, so we'll be looking forward to that as well. And so for JR Gregory, for our producer Josh Wilkie, done a great job working the cameras for me. I'm Charles Beauchelle. Thank you very much for watching the Radical Americas race, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks at Nordschleife, and we'll look forward to it. And hey, stay safe and keep Carl the Gray.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.